Okay, 11.6, solving rational equations. It's all coming to an end. It's the last section of learning in Algebra 2. Okay, so when one or both sides of rational equation has a sum or difference, we multiply each side of the equation by the LCD to eliminate the fractions, okay? So that's what we do to eliminate the fractions. So the first thing we hear is we're gonna find the LCD of all denominators, okay? May need to factor before. Second, we're gonna multiply all terms by the LCD. Third, we're gonna divide and simplify. 4, we're going to use inverse operation to set one side equal to 0. 5, factor if possible. 6, we're gonna use a zero product property, set each product equal to 0 and solve for x. And then 7, we're gonna check solutions in original rational equation, okay? 7 is always if you're unsure. Like, did I do it right? I don't know, okay? So step 1, I'm gonna go through every single, for teacher example, I'm gonna go through every single step as it's written. So we're gonna find the LCD. So step 1, LCD. My LCD depends on my denominator. My denominator LCD is 2x. Step 2 is to multiply all terms by the LCD. So I'm going to multiply all terms by the LCD. So it's going to become 2x times 6 over x plus 2x times x over 2 equals 2x times 4. So I multiply each thing. Step 3 is to divide and simplify. When we're dividing and simplifying, what that means is we are going to get to go through and eliminate what's in the numerator and denominator that are common, that are the same. So I get to eliminate x, I get to eliminate 2, and that leaves me with 2 times 6 is 12, plus x times x is x squared equals 2x times 4. And 2x times 4 is 8x. Are you still with me? Okay, we're on to step 4. We're going to use inverse operations to set one side equal to 0. So step 4, inverse operations. So I'm going to subtract 8x. That leaves me with x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. Step 5 is to factor. I'm going to move it up here. Negative 6 and negative 2. What multiplies to give me 12, but adds to give me negative 8 is negative 6 and negative 2. Step 6 is to use zero product property to set each product equal to 0 and solve for x. So we have x minus 6 equals 0, and we have x minus 2 equals 0. So we have x equals 6, and we have x equals 2. Step 7 is if I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I did that right. That's too easy. I'm going to check by plugging in. If I plug in 6 over 6 plus 6 over 2, does that equal 4? Yes. 1 plus 3 is 4. If I plug in 2, so I have 6 over 2 plus 2 over 2, does that equal 4? 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. Yes, we did it right. So these are our answers. So those are all 7 steps at play, okay? Now, these are 7 steps that are suggested. As you're going through the problems and you are able to use your math skills that you're comfortable with and that you know, your steps may be reduced. Your steps may be different than someone else's. Okay, we're gonna look at a couple more examples. So here we have 2 over x plus 1 over x equals 3, okay? And so for 2 over x plus 1 over x, the LCD is x. Agreed? So step 2 is to multiply each factor by the LCD. So we have x times 2 over x plus x times 1 over x equals x times 3. Step 3 is to divide and simplify. So we get x, 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 and that leaves me with 2 plus 1 equals 3x, which gives me 3 equals 3x. At this point, could I stop and answer the question? Yeah, is it necessary for me to go through the rest of the steps? No, at this point, you can tell me the answer is what? 1, x equals 1. If you chose to go through the steps, then they're going to end up at 1. But using your skills, you can be like, oh, okay. So if I want to get this by itself, subtracting 3. 0 equals 3x minus 3. Oh, I'm going to factor this. Okay, that gives me 3x minus 1 equals 0. Oh, use zero product. X minus 1 equals 0. So x equals 1. Yes, I can go through those steps, but using my knowledge and my math sense, I can see where to stop. Does that make sense? Okay. On number 2. Number 2, there's 2 ways to do it. Number 2. When it's sum and difference, your LCD is important. But when it's just one fraction equal to another fraction, what is this called? Starts with a P. A proportion. Does that ring a bell? And when you have a proportion, how are you taught to solve proportions? Anyone remembers? Does cross multiply ring any bells? Does that ring bells? Okay, when you have a proportion, you can solve it by cross multiplying. You can also solve this by using the 7 steps above, but I just want to go over solving this with proportions. When it's just a fraction equal to a fraction, you can solve by cross multiplying. Okay, so I have 1 times x cubed minus 27 equals x minus 3 times x minus 4. Okay, so do we see how that works? So when you solve by cross multiplying, what ends up happening is it automatically takes it from being 2 fractions to being a horizontal problem. Now I can factor x cubed minus 27 because it's difference of cubes. So this becomes x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9 equals x minus 3 times x minus 4. Notice how both sides has an x minus 3, so that gets to cancel out. And I'm just left with x squared plus 3x plus 9 equals x minus 4. Now I'm at step 4, where I want to get one side equal to 0. And that gives me x squared plus 2x plus 13 equals 0. Step 5 is to factor. But the thing here is to factor this, it's not going to work. And it's not going to work because 13 is what? Prime. Exactly. So you have to use the quadratic formula. So using the quadratic formula, your A is 1, your B is 2, and your C is 13. So that gives us x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So we get x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 52 divided by 2. Uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. What happened here? What's going to happen here? You end up with a negative 48. Because you end up with a negative under the square root, that means that you have no real solution. Now, it's not going to ask you to find the imaginary, but could you continue this out and find the imaginary solution? Yes, you could. I continued it out on the notes on your canvas if you want to see it. Okay, so if you are equal to, if it's a fraction equal to a fraction, you can cross multiply. You don't have to do steps 1, 2, and 3. However, could you still do steps 1, 2, and 3 and get to the same thing? Why, yes, you can. You most definitely can. But is it necessary? No. I wouldn't stop you. Okay. Now we're on to example 3. Example 3. This time I'm going to find the LCD. My LCD has to be both binomial, so x minus 1 and x minus 2. Step 2 is to multiply everything by the LCD, all terms by the LCD. Because I don't have enough room, I'm going to do it in parts. I don't think I'm going to make it be able to fit. Well, I'll try. I think I squeezed it last time. So here I go. So I have 6 times x minus 1 times x minus 2 over x minus 1 plus 2x times x minus 1 times x minus 2 over x minus 2 equals 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 2. Didn't make it. I would have. I started off kind of big here. I forget that I have a little more power up here because I'm on a computer, not on a real paper. I can maybe get her in there. So I can get 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 2. Boom. Squeeze her in there. All right, so here we go. So step 3 is to divide. When we're dividing, we get to eliminate. So x minus 1, x minus 2, they're gone. So I'm left with 6 times x minus 2. So I'm going to distribute. That gives me 6x minus 12 plus 2x times x minus 1. I'm going to distribute. Gives me 2x squared minus 2x. Scoot it over a little bit. All right. So I'm going to distribute or FOIL first. Let's FOIL first. So 2 gives me x squared minus 2x minus 1x plus 2. And I'm going to keep going. So I have 6x and negative 2x make 4x. So I have 2x squared plus 4x minus 12 equals 2x squared minus 6x plus 4. Goal is to get one side equal to 0. I'm going to subtract the 2x's away. I'm going to add 6x and subtract 4. And that leaves me with 10x minus 16 equals 0. Step 5 is to factor. Factor out my 2, leaves me with 5x minus 8 equals 0. Step 6 is to take my factor, set it equal to 0. 5x minus 8 equals 0. So 5x equals 8. Divide by 5. So x equals 8/5. And then 7 would be to check. So, all right, what are your questions, comments, or concerns? Let me know now.